So first of all, very warm welcome to everybody, and it's really a great honor for me to be able to present to you my study and my tables. So actually, I delivered this presentation also last year. So now I would more focus on the technical table workshop part more, but let's start with the presentation of the whole concept first. And I would like also in the beginning excuse my Irish pronunciation if it ever comes up, because I don't speak Irish, unfortunately, and also I'm not a native English speaker. So yeah, please just ask me if something is not clear. So what was the main idea behind the study about the Irish clans, which I started around 3 years ago? Uh, we know that the family tree DNA Big Y 700 test is now the best resolution, high resolution DNA test on the paternal side, and I realized that if we put the big Y results into specific tables, it's really something which we can use for real historical research. Because what we had earlier, it was usually empty DNA or larger general haplogroups. It usually stopped a few thousand years ago. So we couldn't really manage to get in-depth information on phylogenetic side, which could be used for answering real historical questions, so to say. So as soon as you have like 300-400 years of confidence intervals, in different results and tests, definitely that's not good enough, because you cannot really distinguish between Norman conquest versus early medieval ages or early Iron Age and Roman era, and so on and so forth. So I started to work on Ireland, especially due to two things. One is that we have a lot of Irish results or people of Irish descent in the databases already. So it's definitely a really good sample to touch on and to work with. And the other issue is that Ireland is really a great treasure in terms of surname stability. That we have a lot of surnames established since the 11th or 12th century, and also that we have this rich mythological tradition, how they are genealogically connected with early medieval princely or kingly lines. So actually, we, especially in case of the Connachta, for example, we have traditional lines going back to the first century AD, which means that practically we can test historical theories for 2000 years with Y-DNA. And also another aspect is that, as we know that in early medieval Ireland we had around 150 tua, it would be interesting to see if we can connect one specific SNP mutation with one specific tua. So whether it would turn out that actually we had like 150 paternal lines, small clans, who have been ruling these tua, and build up from there the whole picture of early medieval Ireland. So I just show two examples. So one, I started with the Dalcash with O'Brien and Kennedy lines to see how it works out, and I realized that it's completely fitting. I call it SNP ladder. So you are all familiar, I think, with the term SNP. So I would not really explain that, but I used to say that we should consider all the different SNPs coming after each other, or the mutations, as a ladder, where which we should put after each other, of course. And sometimes they are branching out, but we can always climb back using these ladders and the different steps back in history. And with looking into the big data, I saw that roughly with this big Y 700 test, we have one SMP roughly around 65 years on those lines where we have a lot of people. So it's of course, there is a lot of confidence issues with this, because sometimes we have big Y 500 tests, which are not so high resolution yet. So if, for example, on the same lineage, somebody has a big Y 700 test and another one has a big Y 500 test, probably one SMP would not come every 65 years, but rather 80 years or even 100 years. And also in case of sublineages where we don't have a lot of results, some SMPs are just go undiscovered, because in for example, if we have just a long line where we have two persons only, some of the no calls would happen in one of the persons, and so the SMPs from the other person would not be confirmed by FTDNA. So that would leave us with relatively a shorter ladder than what is the reality. But actually, I tested the thing so that I tested my own son. And actually, the big Y700 test was showing already one mutation difference between me and my son. So I think we can be quite sure that at least every two generations we have one mutation at this test resolution. So it can be used quite well. And I just started with the O'Briens because we know the real birth year of Brian Boru. So I was able to count back every generation and then establish the three for the whole Dalkash, which you can see on the left side. And I tried to define with specific SMPs the specific clans descending from Dalkash here. Now, I have to, of course, highlight and stress that this whole study, which I did, depended a lot on the specific lineage and surname administrators, like you present here. So I'm really grateful for the things which you have done, for all the job and the groupings and everything. So of course, I am not really a deep research expert on any of the specific Irish surnames and clans or any sublineages. So I was depending a lot on the different FTDNA projects managed by you and by others who are not present here. So you were doing a great job, and it was helping a lot. I always thought that my added value is that I'm not really stick to one. So because I'm not Irish myself, of course, I'm not focusing too much on any specific lineage, or I have no bias towards any kind of ancestry or interest. So I tried to get this bird's view, for the whole island, because I was interested how it works out. But of course, I had to use the in-depth knowledge of the different lineage projects which you have there. And also, I just showed the connector tree as another example. And also, this is one aspect which I also wanted to mention, that after the first presentation in Emania of my work, some new results arrived. So, for example, the SMP of Niall of the 9 hostages just appeared in 2023. So it was finally defined by the FTDNA with the ZZ87. So I had to update my graph, and also I was contacted by some of the surname admins. So they were sometimes telling me that I should correct this or that branch a bit, because there was some misunderstanding or some new result came up which clarified relationships. So all this is a work in progress. So everything should be understood as good as the present data gets. But of course, we should be ready to open up questions and amend the tables, and probably later in a few years we would have even more answers for our questions, especially concerning ancient DNA data. So it would be really great to have much more ancient DNA from Ireland, especially early medieval, to test actually the ideas which we or test the conclusions which we have reached from present actually living people and surnames, whether they would really apply for the ancient DNA, and we would find the SMP of Niall in Connacht and Western Ulster from the 6th century or 7th century, so it's really, really thrilling and interesting. So of course, why is it interesting? Because we, or at least the Irish people, can know which Irish high kings or provincial rulers they are descending from. Also, we can use this for historical investigations. Like, for example, the most interesting example probably is that the Royal O'Neill line is not really from Coneleon. So it's an interesting question how the Royal O'Neill line is some kind of an usurpers, or how they managed to get the rule of Tyrone. Also, the question of McCarthy Moore lines, which is not Ogonacht genetically. So we can have a lot of different questions, and we hope we will get answers for them sooner or later. Sorry, someone was trying to ask a question, or I'm not sure. Okay, so
and Tibor, I think we'll keep the questions until you finish your presentation, and we'll go into more interactive.
Okay, so and now I would like to show what I also tried to do is a map of Ireland with the Thua. So I based on the Baroness map, but I modified them to more or less represent around 150 realistic Tua, which could have been there around 500 CE, and I colored the map with having different colors for different genetic subgroups on the paternal side. So you can see it's really a nice patchwork, but of course we have the tendencies. So we see that the Ligin is in the southeast, and we can see the Connachta in the northwest, and also Ullidin in eastern Ulster. But we can also see what is very important is the DF21 group, the green ones, which I also tried to highlight in the written study, that it seems that DF21 is a bit atypical from other groups in terms that it's present all over Ireland. It's also very old, so we know that DF21 is already present in ancient DNA from the early Bronze Age in Rathlin Island, and also that the DF21 has many smaller clans, so includes many smaller clans which are not ruling the big four big four provinces, but they are present all over the island. So what conclusion I got is that probably DF21 was the first to settle Ireland, or the first to rule around the island, and then the other big lines, which seem to be bigger now, they mostly have a common paternal ancestor in the early so first, 2nd century CE, so already in the Iron Age, or at least in the Roman era, even if Ireland was not part of the Roman Empire. So we see in the first that these big provincial lineages arise and take over parts of the island from the DF21 sub-branches, which were probably ruling them for the 1,500 years or 2,000 years before that. But this is just an assumption, of course. So this map also helps to see if your DNA and known ancestry, paternal ancestry to Ireland matches, or you can, or if you are from overseas and you have no idea where your Irish ancestors came from, at least this map could show you some hints where to look more deeply. DNA connections, maybe it would be easier to find the place of origin for your own lines. And what can we do with that? So, for example, also for tourism, it would be interesting if you are, R1B M222. You can go to Sligo and discover Benbalbin Mountain, where the sons of Niall of the Nine Hostages prepared their plan for invading Ulster around in the early 5th century, according to traditions, and also their conquest of Western Ulster is confirmed by DNA results. So my conclusions, and then I will go to the workshop part, is that we see that this Big Y 700 test is really a powerful tool for long-term genealogy, and also for answering historical questions, or even resolving historical problems, which or even they might generate new questions which we have never known that they were not so as we thought, like for example, the O'Neill branch. And it is really stable. So even when I tested or I looked into those lineages which are I2 and seem to be like 4,000 years old for Ireland, still I got like one SMP per 65 years, more or less. So it seems that this molecular clock on the Y-DNA is very stable. So it's safe to use it for historical connections. But of course, we always need some caution regarding the data. That we have this problem, and I'm sure that most of you have encountered this who are dealing with projects, that some, especially colonial samples, just have a guess on the self-reported country of origin. So they might say they are from England, of Ulster. It's not really clear if someone puts like a Scottish flag, whether he is really from Ulster or from really can go back to Scotland. And we have this problem with many lineages that the lineage looks quite Irish, but the person puts a Scottish flag, and then it's not clear whether he can really go back before Ulster somewhere to Scotland. So these kind of issues arise. I already mentioned the problems where we don't have a lot of testes for specific lineages. We have a lot of no-calls, which would mean that some SMPs will remain hiding in the data. So it's very important to get as many Big Y 700 tests as possible, even if in case of surnames where we already have a lot of tests, but for specific branches, it would be important to have as much as we can get. And I think that, or I believe that there would be a point when like all of us or more or less everybody outside would have a Big Y 700 test. Then we will reach a point when there would be one SMP discovered per generation, more or less. So thank you very much. So I would stop the presentation here, but now I would move on to show you one example of how to use my tables and study for your own good, or for anyone who is doing this research. So okay, I would go first. Probably you have seen this graph from my paper already, but this is a simple graph. Yeah, Gerard, please confirm that you can see the graph with the SMPs and times.
Yes, we can see it. It's the P312
yes, exactly,
hierarchy.
exactly. Yeah, so here I mapped the upstream connections of the different subgroups. So this here you can see, for example, let's take Corcoran line as an example. So he belongs under S 5456. So we can see in the bottom right corner, the Dabna, descending from DF21, so the green colors. And then, so first of all, you need to know, of course, your SMP, so which SMP branch you belong from among these, which you can see here. Of course, some people would belong to none of these if they belong to rarer subclades, but most of the Irish persons would probably belong to one of these lines. And as soon as you could identify your own subgroup, like for Corcoran, let's take this S5456 in the bottom right. Then you go to my publication. At the end of it, there is the list of supplementary tables. So I would now switch my screen to that. Yes, so you should now see the tables listed from S5 to S19. Gerard, is it visible?
Yes, it's small, okay, but it's readable. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, and here we see that, okay, we look for Dabna or S5456. We can see it's S28. So we can see that the supplementary table 28 is including all these Dabna samples. So now, after getting this identification, we can now go to the supplementary table itself. Yeah, sorry if it seems a bit small, but of course, if it's not a presentation, it would be much quicker. So now you should see the S28 table in the Excel, and we see if we look for Corcoran, we would get here, and we would see two Corcorans in the table with two different FTDNA kit numbers. And we see that one person is identified to be from Galway. And everybody would be labeled with the final SMP. So that time when this table was compiled, it was this FGC SMPs, which you can see here. But of course, it might happen that in the last 2 years, there were new testes and there would be more results here. So the table's idea is that if you look at the top, we have the first generation in 1950 as the generally accepted date for before present. So it's 1950. And we go back like by SMP. So the first row is the SMP number. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the second line is the real time. I would say counted by 65 years per SMP. So we go back from 1950 down the line backwards to the early medieval. And we have FTDNA kit number, surname, country of origin, and county or city if we know it. From the, of course, all this data is something which people provided on the FTDNA sites with their own consent. So, and of course, it's not, so no first names are included, only surnames. So no one is personally identifiable in this. Only everybody knows their own kit numbers, so they can probably recognize themselves. And if we go backwards, you can see that, for example, if there are 7 private SMPs for one Corcoran, then I would put 7 times this private SMP into this table. And then the first common SMP of the 2 Corcoran lines, we can see it's at the 8th level of SMPs, so around 1500 CE or 1500 CE. And we go back, and so we should count every SMP, and we can go backwards to reach one SMP which is shared by others who are non-Corcorans.
Said that horrible. it'd be reporting on a lot of death and a lot of destruction that's not going to take place. I think if you look every night, it got less and less. They were met with very strong force, the bad people, the bad, sick people that do what they do. But these are paid people in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases. And
sorry, I didn't get. Sorry, it was just somehow stopped or. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, probably I should continue. So now why I'm showing this? Of course, in the best cases, if we have nice lines which have a lot of people, like okay, let's look in here the Conroy lines where we have at least 4 persons. Then there the whole table will be filled up more or less. So I used to do it like the SMP list is included backwards, and then of course the lines when they are joining each other and having a common SMP, then of course there might be some gaps that on some branch you have more SMPs total than in other branches. And now back then when I was doing this, the FTDNA Discover mode was not yet available. So it was impossible to do it exactly like whether it should be like the 25th or the 27th SMP, for example, the founder, the DABNA founder S5456. But in most cases, the thing works out quite well. And anybody who uses these tables and would like to use at least one of the lineages from this can always amend. So for example, I show you now in live that okay, we have a third Corcoran probably tested. So you would just simply put paste one row upwards, and so you have a new row now. You can put in the new Corcoran guy, you put the whatever kind of kit number into it, and then you can just amend. Probably they have a new SMP. So for example, we would have like FTG, whatever. It's just, and you would put the common SMP of these 2 Corcorans here, and then put all the other SMPs here as well. And if it turns out that they have more SMPs now than they had before, so they would, for example, share 8 SMPs, then you would just simply put this away and like cut and paste one backwards. So now you would have the all these SMPs one or I mean 2 generations earlier, and you can fill up your table. And in most cases, you would still be fitting the general picture here. Probably it's even more visible if we do it. For example, it was the case with the O'Neill branch. So now I switch to S6, which is the Connacht tree. So here of course I have like more than 3,000 rows. No, probably 2,500 rows filled up. Yeah, but the same idea would still work. So wherever you find, for example, a new Burke here in the row 2,478 something, you would put a new row here. Then this, so they would still share all these SMPs. You can see it's just simply, you would not lose any feature from the table, not any older SMPs which you already had. So it can be always amended quite well. And also I made it so that in case we could identify some people with SMPs like ZZ87. So here we have, I have also put in, it's Niall of the 9 hostages, most likely lived around this time and has at least 26 sons or grandsons based on the descendant lines. So I would say that all the different branches which come from one SMP, so in this case, for example, 26 different branches, that means that he had at least 26 grandsons if we agree that there is one SMP at least every 2 generations. and you will see that this cell would cover all the descendants of Niall. So for example, if we select this, and I would select the whole table out, then we will see that upwards we will see all the descendants of Niall, of the 9 hostages, from the 1900th row up, probably, yeah, I will check. So it's going to be, yeah, until 348. So you can see, and you can see, so if you do this selection, you can see which rows are the descendants of Niall, and whenever you look for your own kid, you just remember which line or row is he, and then you can see if he is descending from Niall or not. So this was the idea behind this table, and the same can be applied for all the different clans and lineages. Of course, the Connacht table is the biggest one, but some smaller ones are much more manageable. So I think probably I would stop here now, and I hope it was more or less understandable and followable.
Yeah. So Tibor, what I'd do is I'll just make a few comments on because I have applied the methodology to four cases, and I'll just briefly mention those cases to the rest, and then perhaps we'll open up to general questions. I know there are a lot of experts in the audience, so it'd be interesting to get some feedback. On the Corcoran one which you illustrated, we do match on that cluster Conroys and Kings and Rowans, and all of these have a historical presence in the Delba, and a particular branch of the Delba, which is the Delba Trídalacha, which is in Galway. And they are close to other Delba clans like the Kellys and the Coughlan's, which are in the Midlands of Ireland. So that's fine. That doesn't mean that all Corcorans are part of Delba. It means that particular cluster is. We do have other groups in our Corcoran project which match the Eli O'Carroll, and I'm quite close to it, but I'm closer to Delba. But some of them match the chiefly line of Eli O'Carroll. We have about 10 different clusters, and I think many of the surname projects will have a number of different clusters. The second one I applied it to was the Sarsfield Homecoming project. That's different. It's not Irish Gaelic name. It's a Cambro-Norman name. So and it's not a traditional Cambro-Normal. It's a rare haplogroup, which is the EV35. But they also match many other Cambro-Norman names in Ireland. For instance, the Fitzgeralds, the Fitzstevens, the Fitzthomas, and so on and so forth. The Roaches, who are Cambro-Norman, and a few other branches. So we are finding a distinctive Cambro-Norman signature there. Now, your tables are mainly orientated towards the Gaelic surnames. The third one, I work with people in Northwest Ireland, and this was the Dlacan surname, and that was a classic M222, which many would be familiar with. And it does go back to Niall 9 hostages. It does go back to historic names and then semi-historic names. We're getting into the Celtic mist of mythology, and we go back a further 500 years into mythology, but it's almost proving that the mythology was correct, that we are hitting on the expected branches which have been told to us in mythology, which is an interesting concept. And then the fourth one, which I personally which I'm an administrator of, is the Donnellan project. Again, that's an M222. And we solved one of the historic mysteries, but were they connected to the O'Kellys or were they connected to the O'Connors? And the chiefly line we found was connected to the O'Connors. So we were able to resolve some historic questions which we had there. So at this juncture, as we're already 3/4 way through, I'll probably open it up to the forum. And I don't know, Shane, if someone wants to discuss their particular one or ask a question, maybe they can put a question in the chat, and Shane will open up the or unmute the microphone, or will the person unmute the microphone, Shane?
Yeah, also, I see already 3 or at least 2 questions and 1 comment in this chat section. So probably I could start answering the first 2 questions if it's good for you.
Okay.
So so the first question is on Kivani, if I pronounce it correctly, from Connacht. So this is a very interesting one. If you look into the surname list in the study, which I would not go back to now, but I would say that it's so in the supplementary table 12 is the Kivani, because I have an Excel sheet for the surnames separately. So I would try to share again my screen. So it should be in the S12. So now I hope you can see it. Yeah, the S12 table now. And so let's type it. Okay, I just mistyped it, I guess. So yeah. Okay. Why is it not working out? It should be S. Okay, it was without the E. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So that's why I didn't find. So we have the Kivani here, and we can see it's a nice clan type structure between lines 61 and 77. So we can see that the common ancestor is around the 16th SMP for all the Kivanis from Connacht, which is, we can see here, there are different ones from Mayo, Sligo, Galway. And we see that backwards, we can go back with the SMPs here all the way back to 1500 before Christ. And even on the other branch, we have even more SMPs. So we get back to minus 2000, actually, for the SMP Y3723. So this branch is some very old Neolithic survivor branch in Ireland. Actually, to be honest, we don't really know whether it's really a Neolithic survivor in Ireland, or it is a Neolithic survivor in Scotland and entering Ireland from Scotland through the North Channel at the same time as the Proto-Celts are, or the Proto-Gaelic people. Because as you can see, actually the timeline doesn't go back before 2000 BC, which is also around the arrival of the Gaelic type of lines to Ireland. So that this question should be answered by the ancient DNA. But what we see, definitely the Kivani, and another one is the Morrissey from Kilkenny, Tipperary, and Limerick, who are the 2 identifiable septs descending from these very ancient pre-Indo-European people, whether they were originally from Ireland or from Scotland. so I hope that answered your question, but unfortunately, due to the relative rarity of this line, it is impossible to say which tua it was. But my idea put on paper in the study as a potential answer was that they could have been the Firbolg if that was the Celts already found them there probably in Connacht, or the ancient kings of Connacht before the Connachta people. So if we switch, I don't know if it's okay to move now for the second question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yes, and I see this question. So actually, Gerard should upload the Excel sheet to the GSI website somewhere. So yeah, that would be open, and you can use it for your own researches. Actually, I thought it was already uploaded, but then okay, I think after this session we can upload it.
Yeah. So Tibor, what I'll do is I'll have some conversation with my colleagues to find out where's the best place to put it. Okay. We may, obviously it would be good to have a master copy somewhere, and that maybe you control the master copy, or at least do release management so that we don't have 10 different versions going around.
No, I was thinking just we have one copy uploaded, and that people would not amend that, but rather download and then do it for themselves if they want, because I guess most of the people would be interested in just 1, 2, or maximum 4 lines, for example, all the grandparents or something, but not in everything. So then they can just make use of it and do for their own research, and probably then afterwards share the new results if they manage to get some on the specific lines or specific tables.
Right. Okay. And after this, I will have a call with my colleagues in the GSI to find out where's the appropriate place to do it and how we do it. It could be in the GSI, it could be on Genetic Genealogy Ireland, but we will find a place. And once we have done that, we will announce it on the different websites.
Okay, so now I would move on the next question from Nigel McCarthy. So yes, I did actually the backward calculation for L21 as well. So L21 is the 73rd SMP on the list. So that would put it like 2700 BC, roughly. And I should check... I have another table with me, which I cannot show because I just opened it on my other computer. But I will check the DF13, yeah. So yeah, the DF13 for me it's like 69th, so it's like 2500 BC roughly, so 2470 BC. For DF13. But what we see usually is that most lines which are relevant for Gaelic ancestry, they usually come in the 2200. So around 2200, they start to have ancestry. So probably even if L21 and DF13 was older, but probably they were still in Britain. And most of these Gaelic type branches usually have common ancestor around 2100 or 2200 BC. And this is also fitting, as I told you, this pre-Indo-European Kivani type of I2 lines, because they also have an ancestor in 2000 BC already in Ireland. So that was already in Ireland, yeah. Okay, so let's see with Fiachrach. Okay, I'm just quickly rushing through. Okay, so I'm not sure whether it was just a comment, right? I guess not a question. Yes, so table access, yes, it would be solved. Okay, so let's look into the FGC 400 and so with Paul Conroy. Okay, let's look. Can you still see my table, my Excel?
Yes.
Okay, so it should be FGC 458. So I went back to S6 because it's the connector branch. Oh, okay, so it's a false friend because it's not that SMP. Yeah, here we have the FGC 458, and if we highlight all the descendants, we can see Dun, Byrne, and Kelly lines here. I'm not sure if that's one of you, Paul, inside that list, or you were tested later, because I cannot see a Conroy name here among the FGC 458 samples. But I have already put this info into the sheet. If you see here at the 17th SMP number that it could be King of Braga who was the ancestor of this line, based on your communication earlier. I think we had emails about this. And what we can also see, so if we go backwards here, so you just keep going back, then of course we have here distance, so probably this SMP is a bit older than what we see here in the table. It's not fully filled up, but then we go back to FGC 448 and we go down back to the start with Tuatha Techmar, probably, yes. So interestingly, if this King of Braga was really your ancestor, that means he was a side branch and not descending from Niall, or so not a southern O'Neill, but rather a separate branch. Okay, I'm not sure if Paul, you want to come in to discussion.
There was some questions about where they can get the paper. The paper was published in last year's Journal of the Genealogical Society of Ireland. However, the Excel spreadsheets were not published at that time. So we will find out where's the appropriate place to upload that, and maybe just have a central place so you don't have to go searching through the journal for the article.
Yeah, thank you. And so I see one question from Aidan Fries. Okay, so yeah, actually the SMP data was compiled from the Big Y block tree from FTDNA, but back then when I was doing, the discover feature was not yet there. But the thing is that usually, as it goes with like everything which is automated, so if you do it automatically, it would generate averages and cannot really distinguish between like small specificities. So I was actually doing this all data hand by hand. So I was writing it in. I didn't use anything like, automatic copy pasting or something, because especially it's if you look at the connector, for example, which is of course with the highest number of samples, FTDNA Discover 3 would put Niall like 200 years earlier than which would historical reality provide, or which would be with my method. And the thing is that they average out numbers of SMPs, and also they do some calculations based on STR differences. So especially with the big Y 700, you have the 700 STRs, and they do calculations. But the problem is that sometimes we have one time occurring multiple mutations. Also, in my own case, is the case that my D392 it simply just deleted 3 parts. So instead of 13, which everybody has under R1b, I just have 10. And it happened at once somehow. So it's not 3 different mutations, but the FTDNA would calculate it, like 3 times 1 step mutations. While if we manually look into it, that all my other matches have 13 and I have 10, it's clear that it was just a one-time 3-step mutation. So all these automatic time calculations have this problem that they cannot really distinguish between such multi-mutations per one-time events or deletions and stuff like that. So, for example, if you look into the big Y tree, sometimes you will see that most of the branches have 20 SMPs maximum, but then there is 2 people who share a lot of common SMPs back down the line, and they have 30 or something, and the whole table looks like a bit strange, that you have 2 persons getting down to the bottom and everybody else is private SMPs just starting around the 5th or the 10th ladder step. Yeah, I guess you have seen such cases in big Y tables or trees. So in that case, many times the issue is that you have one time multiple mutations for this line, which is quite long. And even in some cases, you see that from the SMP names, because sometimes SMPs come just one after each other. So I don't know, FT200 and FT201, FT202 would be after each other for the same branch only. So many times those are just simple one-time mutations, but affecting multiple SMP positions. And in that respect, that, for example, 3 mutations should be counted only as one column in my Excel sheet. So I would probably, where should I show that such thing? Maybe try to look for such examples. Yeah, so for example, we have A182 and A183. So probably these were just, this was just one mutation, 2 mutations at one time. So probably they should be just merged into one column. But here all the other SMP numbers added up, so I could leave it there. But in some cases where we have longer lines, these FGC numbers should be merged. So here also FGC 4940 and 4939 and so on. So we have this specific list. Sometimes it can mean that actually just multiple mutations happened at once. And also the issue is that of course the test takers' birth years differ. So you can still have a 100-year difference between people, even if FTDNA now asks for birth year for testers recently, but in earlier times it was not the case. And for example, I have tested my own grandpa, who was born in 1925, and my son was born in 2018. So actually they are both in the database, but they have a difference of 93 years in birth year. So of course all this what I have shown you in the Excel is just a generalization, and of course not everybody starts from 1950. So so there are these issues also which sometimes should be manually adjusted, so to say.
Just as a matter of interest, how many mutations does your son have that your grandfather doesn't have? Just one? I think you said your son has one that you don't have. Is that right?
Please, sorry, I didn't get the beginning.
Just comparing your son with your grandfather. How many differences have you seen?
Yeah, the problem is that with my grandfather, I couldn't do the big Y because
Oh,
his DNA was already out, so to say. So I did only the 37 marker test, and then and also the family finder, and then unfortunately DNA was not enough DNA was left, so I couldn't do the big Y for him, but I did for myself and my son, and we have one difference already. So it should be I should have one difference from my grandfather, more or less. But yeah, I will probably there should be some other people in the database who can do that as well, so that to test grandsons and or great grandsons.
As we're getting, we've gone beyond the 1 hour, and I don't want to keep Shane up all night. There was a question there about Gallagher's, and I'm familiar with that because I did a Lacan project, and they match in clusters with all of the Northwest Ireland names, such as Boyle, O'Donnell, McLaughlin, Doherty, Coyne, even McGrath, Myler McGrath, the famous Bishop King, and some Burns. So that's fairly well documented, and the methodology works very clearly there. What one of the actions we will take is I will post about where to find the paper, and we will sort out the appropriate place to put the Excel spreadsheet, probably in read-only, so that people can download and work on it on their own particular project, and send any updates perhaps to Tibor. So at this junction, what I'd like to do is thank Tibor for his presentation, and we would love to see the research on this project continue. And I'm not sure if you have the time to do all of it. I know you're involved in many projects, and like many of us, you have a day job as well, although I recently retired. And so I think the solution to that may be that we form a group here in Ireland, get some academic partners involved as well, and try and take the methodology a bit further. But again, Tibor, thank you again for staying up late with us, because you are 1 hour ahead of us. And I would just like to tell the group that we will have another lecture about this time next month. We have lectures every month. They're very interesting. The next one will be on one of the founders of archiving and genealogy, or history-based genealogy, Professor Dudley Moore. And in that lecture will be given by his granddaughter. So with that, Shane, are you still there? Do you want to say some closing remarks?
No, just thank you very much to both of you. That was, I was going to say mind-blowing. It was head-expanding, definitely. There's a lot of work done, and hopefully it'll continue, and we'll fill in more of the gaps and learn more about our history. A fascinating topic. You could get lost in that very easily.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you. It was great.
But thanks everybody for attending. Hope you found it interesting and learned things from it.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.